So we have the full spoilers for chapter 36 of Boruto 2 Blue Vortex, and a lot has happened. Koji has a stronger version of prescience, Borushiki has returned, and of course Boruto's plan with Sarada to stop Code has failed miserably, which of course everyone saw coming. But what's most important is that Boruto's manga is going on a break for a full month, which I don't think has happened before. So is there some cause for concern, or is the manga in its closing phases? I guess we'll see. So the person on the cover is Amado, and the title is A Parent's Heart. It says here that shortly after Amado asks Kawaki to kidnap Koji, Kawaki wonders if this will get in the way of defeating all the Shinju. Amado of course tells him not to worry, cause everything he's doing is for the sake of his daughter. He wants the Shinju to be defeated as quickly as possible, but he's got something personal to talk to Koji about. Kawaki agrees pretty quickly, as per usual, because he doesn't care to talk about any in-depth reasons. As long as it doesn't get in the way of his goal, he'll do it. He then asks him if Boruto is in the village currently. And just to be clear, this convo takes place before the events of the prior chapter, at least the ending portion of the chapter where Kawaki goes and captures Koji. So Kawaki says that he is, but he's suppressing his chakra signature. All he can feel is his Otsutsuki presence. Amado then says that now is their chance to move while Boruto isn't with Koji, and before Tenpatsu gets another update. If we're going to do this, it's gotta be now. And then we skip to the page where Kawaki does this at the final section of the prior chapter. Now we then skip to the more political aspect of it, because it says here that Kobu is confused because he came to on the roof of the Okage office when he'd previously been in the interrogation room with the Okage. He has no memory of ever leaving the room or even standing up from his chair. He explains to the elders that when he came to, he was surrounded by Shinju. He panicked thinking he'd die for sure. And then he appeared, the mysterious Boruto Otsutsuki, the Okage killer, the Okage killing traitor, Boruto, whatever. Sai explains that Boruto wiped out all 6 attacking Shinju in an instant. One of the elders, I don't care to pronounce this name to be honest, asked if Boruto really came to Kobu's aid. Kobu then says that is how it may have seemed, but his hypothesis is different. He thinks it was all a farce. He doesn't believe that Boruto would have stopped by just to save him. It's too convenient of a story. He thinks he was duped, which, to be fair, is true. Not on Boruto's part, but that is what Koji was trying to do. Now Sai then asked what he means by being duped, and Koji then goes on to say that he thinks that Shikamaru is working with Boruto of course, and the others, which is referring to Mitsuki and Sarada, are in leagues with him as well. Either way, he thinks they cooperated to stop the interrogation. He doesn't know why Shikamaru would work with Boruto, but the timing of the interruption and the attack seemed planned, which it was, and it only furthers his hunch that they're working together, which I don't know if you would call it an hunch at this point because he literally left them having a conversation together, so I think that was pretty obvious at that point. But yeah, the elder then goes on to say that they think it's becoming increasingly likely that Boruto is in communication with the Shinju. Looking at things that way is only natural. He also goes on to say that he thinks it seems like it's probable that Boruto may have even lured the Shinju into the village. Kobu thinks that could be the case as well, but either way, it's obvious that Boruto and Shikamaru are working together, which is what he really wants to focus on, by the way. It's all about Shikamaru and getting him off the office, and I wonder if there's something else going on behind the scenes that makes him really want to do that, because that seems to be what he's focusing on, even outside of what Boruto is doing with the Shinju. But of course, Sai then interjects and says, they're taking their theories way too far. Are you really trying to say that the Okage himself has taken action to rebel against the village? Kobu then says, well, to put it bluntly, yes. Kobu of course thinks it's a logical enough conclusion, and that the traitor who let Boruto escape was indeed none other than Nara Shikamaru. There should be some sort of concrete proof, and he fully intends to find it. Assisting a traitor, the great Hokage killer himself is a serious crime. Of course, there were others as well, but they need to have the man at the top take responsibility first. Again, he's lasering his focus on Shikamaru specifically. And then he says he already sent a report to the daimyo. It's only a matter of time until he grants his approval. Sai then responds, approval? And Kobu then says the approval for Nara Shikamaru's dismissal. This of course can only be done by the daimyo, obviously. And as soon as Kobu finds proof of Shikamaru's misdeeds, with the elder's consent, his dismissal will be finalized. Then we skip to Shikamaru and the sensory team and all that stuff. I think this was the earlier sneak peek that came out yesterday that I didn't cover, but here we are. They tell him that there's something strange that came up in the logs of people entering and exiting the village. A few moments ago, it seems as though someone matching Jiraiya's chakra signature entered the village. Shikamaru of course remembers that Koji is a clone of, Jiraiya from the conversation with Amado back in part 1, but he doesn't tell anyone. He just tells him that to keep that private. Now Koji then wakes up restrained in the jutsu sealing cuffs, which is just insane. Again, by the way, I wish those did not exist in this universe. But now he's unable to control his frogs. Amado compliments him on surviving his fight versus Ishiki. He then goes on to say, long time no see, Koji. It'd be nice if you're not holding too much of a grudge against me. And Koji then goes on to say on top of being prepared to fulfill that mission, he understood the circumstances going into it. There's no need to hold any grudge against Amado. Amado then said that he's surprised that Koji is alive, but to get to the bottom of things, he's curious about the Shinjutsu 10 paths or prescience. The power to see all occurring futures, irregular, compulsory occurring updates, seeing new visions of the future, whatever. I understand that is what 10 paths is, or prescience. Your last update was 4 days ago, a little bit before the Mamushi battle. I became aware of your power for the first time through this fight, and decided on this course of action. In other words, this is a derivation of the future, a development that you didn't see in your update 4 days ago, which I'm not sure how he knows this for sure. Koji did seem surprised, but who knows, maybe he's just acting surprised. But I guess, Amado could just be going off information that he does know, and he can make that logical assumption. But yeah, he can't really know for sure. He then goes on to tell him, which is something that I said in my own video before, that Tenpath's greatest weakness is the blind spot in its prediction, thinking that it's over and that all went well. You wallowed too much in the confidence in your ability. Kashin Koji, you're still too naive, which isn't true by the way. Koji was still on the ball, he didn't believe it was over, so again, he's just making a lot of assumptions here. But yeah, Koji then said, to think you'd be so bold. Amado, what are you planning? Amado then tells him that you can find this out from Ada's archive anyway, so I'll be honest, I made a few adjustments to your brainwaves. And Koji's like, what? He then says, don't hate me too much. I apologize for being a bit rough with you, but listen here, I'm not your enemy. I restrained you just to be safe, but I really do just want to talk with you calmly. Koji then says, my calm will depend on the contents of our conversation. What did you do? Amado then goes on to explain that the information of the 10 paths, or that the 10 paths brings about, is advantageous to us. But as you can see from the kidnapping, it does have vulnerabilities. The problem is the interval in between updates. If I can shorten that a little, you'll be able to get more accurate information faster, and it will be easier to stay out of danger. That is what I was thinking. I'm the parent who created you after all. Chalk it up to me having a parent's heart, which is of course the title of the chapter, I think. Koji then says, so you can make the interval between updates shorter? Amado then replied saying, I think so. It was an ultrasound based operation. You have no external injuries, so don't worry too much. In other words, your brain has simply become more active than before. I'm just trying to reassure you, really. But in my own way, I wanted to do what I could do to help you. Koji, take a look at that. It's a clone of my daughter, Akebi. Kawaki's karma contains, the memories and genetic information of Akebi, everyone knows this. If Kawaki carves his karma into that, it should completely revive my daughter, using the same method as Otsutsuki reincarnation. Tell me, Koji, have you seen a future where Kawaki carved his karma onto my daughter? And Koji then says, to be honest with you, I haven't seen it once. As a special ability that comes with 10 parts, I have all the futures I've seen stored in my brain. That is why I can declare that with certainty. There has never been a single future where that has ever come to pass. Jura is in every future, and he almost always kills Kawaki, which is very funny because they do show a panel of Kawaki giving the karma to Akebi, and we have the karma sea manifesting on her forehead. So I'm not sure if Koji is lying here and he did see it, or that's just like a visual representation of what it would look like. I'm not sure. I'm more so leaning to the former, because they've never really done the latter before. Like every time we've seen a possible future, it's never something that's just a guess. It's normally something Koji has seen. So I think he's lying for some reason, but I'm not sure why. I guess we'll find out. Now Amado then says, thank you, I see. I'm glad I was able to hear it from you directly. And of course he looks a bit sad. He then tells him that he's looking forward to the next update, to what our future current reality has created. And he then frees Koji from the cuffs or whatever, and that's that for that. We then move over to Shikamaru saying, damn it, Amado that bastard, changing the password up on me again. And that's referring to the door outside the lab or whatever. But yeah. Now Boruto then teleports to the hideout, but Koji is missing and he starts to panic. But of course Koji appears at the same time, so I guess it worked out. Boruto wants to make sure that everything is okay with Koji, but Koji tells him he'll explain things later and attempts to get Inojin's attention. Inojin is startled but replies. Koji then said, Ada, it's me, Koji. Can Shikamaru hear as well? And Shikamaru replied of course, and he wants to know what's going on. Koji then said, I'll explain now. Ada, I want you to take a look at what Amado did to me about an hour ago. And then Ada said, hey, would it kill you to be a little less pushy? I'm getting annoyed. Koji then said, Ada, this is important. Something only you can, and then he gets cut off and he goes into his update mode, so he's getting some new visions. Now while this happens, Sarada is walking in the village and she's remembering the conversation with Boruto where he tells her that he wants her to let Code capture her. And of course he'll use the ornaments or devices to teleport to her when she goes to the Shinju hideout. So Sarada is now in the village by herself and she walks into an alley because she decides that it would be easier for Code to ambush her or to get the drop on her if multiple people aren't around. Then we skip back to Koji. There's flashes of Sumire, Cloud Grimes, Boruto activating Karma, taking a hit from something, Sarada's encounter with Code, face pressed into the claw marks, Boruto's right eye, Sarada using her Mangekyo, Hidari reaching towards her, Jura cooking soup, it seems, Boruto's right eye, some tree roots, and Kawaki's right eye, and Jura's foot. So many things going on here, I'm just gonna read them off. Interesting info, but the most interesting is yet to come. We also have flashes of a Land of Fire hat, which I think is related to the political stuff. Kobu smirking, the corner of the Okage's cloak, Konohamaru looking tense, Jura cooking alongside Shikamaru with a tasting dish. Yeah. We also have Moegi looking a bit concerned, Hidari again reaching towards Sarada, and she reaches forward, more tree roots, some random leaf ninja, Himawari, Karma Kawaki, Boruto's horn state, and Sarada's belt buckle, and of course Borushiki with a full horn. And of course, as you guys know, Boruto snapped it in half, I think, back in part 1, and it didn't grow even at the end of part 1. Though of course it has been over 3 years, so it makes sense that it would have grown since then. But also, how does that happen if the Otsutsuki data that created it was removed by being broken off? Like, can the data replicate itself to grow? That's very interesting. Now Koji then comes back and says, Boruto, listen up, calm down and listen to what I have to say. The decoy plan with Sarada is going to fail. And then we skip to Code pushing Sarada to the ground, And he also says, I see. I was wondering why you were giving off hints of Boruto's chakra. The cause is this, isn't it? And he's pulling out the little ornament stuff using some chakra manipulation on his palm to sense it and then pull it from Sarada's waist. And he goes on to deduce pretty accurately that these are what Boruto uses to teleport, and he was going to use it to find the Shinju hideout. Sarada then says, damn it, this is bad. And Ko then says, unfortunately for you, you are too late. Koji then says, wait, Boruto, don't go. You are, and then Boruto teleports to Sarada, and we have this panel of Sarada activating the Mangekyo, but before she's able to do anything, she's pushed into the claw mark. Boruto then arrives, but he's way too late, and Koji says, damn it, that idiot. And the side text says, contact with Amado, a new update, the failure of the plan, and a huge spiral that makes a whirlpool out of fate. And that's the end of the chapter until September, because we have no chapter in August, which is crazy. But yeah, there's a lot happening. Ikimoto left us with something, which is awesome. With that said, if you guys liked it, drop a like. If you're new, subscribe, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.